Part 6. Mom continued. Where was I? Oh, yes. You were sleeping cradled in my arms, and all I could do was watch you. Your dad also liked watching your face as you slept. Your tiny nose, ears, lips, and eyes, he whispered to me. What a beautiful little person. Father God created him so perfectly. Since I gave names to all the other animals and I gave you your name, Eve, I think it seems right to let you try naming a being. What would you like to name him? At the moment, all I could do was blink and look from my husband to my newborn son. I didn't think Adam would ever trust me with this kind of responsibility again after I convinced him to eat the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, forcing us to leave Eden. All I could think about was the newborn son that we had just gotten, and there it was, the perfect name for him, the son we had gotten, acquired, produced, and brought forth into the world. In unison, Mom and Dad both happily sighed. Cain. Cain. Mom chuckled. But for short, we all call him Cain. Really, I did not see that coming. I felt myself blink awake as though I had dozed off for a moment while in a sitting position. Sure, this is a great story, but I hear it every year on Cain's birthday, so I'm not as impressed. I guess I was more tired than I thought. Mom added with another affectionate stroke to Cain's hair. When we first got you, Cain, it was like our own sweet way of tasting the promise. I blinked. But how can we be sure that Cain is the promised one? Everyone was staring wide-eyed at me. Who was I that I had the audacity to question whether our beloved Cain was the promised one? I gulped and added, I mean, I'm not saying that he isn't the promised one. I'm just asking, how do we know that the promised one is definitely Cain and not, say, some other son, like Bo? I motioned to my 3-year-old brother sleeping against the right side of Mom's feet. Or maybe even another son who hasn't even been born yet. Dad's eyes narrowed at me from a few steps away. He grunted angrily and threw the fire-poking stick to the ground. He slightly shook his head and slowly, deliberately approached me for dramatic effect and intimidation. I continued in the calmest voice I could muster at the time. I mean no disrespect or anything. I just really want to know how you know. And who gets to choose? Does Cain get to choose to be the promised one when he grows up? Do you and Mom choose? Or does Father God choose and reveal who the promised one is? Or does he choose but not reveal? To maintain the element of a surprise attack against the devil serpent and his accursed seed? I gulped again as Dad towered over me. I had thrown rocks at some predators to drive them away from my herd of sheep without feeling much fear. Sure, the first few were scarier, but after a while it became second nature to me. But when Dad stared me down like this, I didn't know what to feel. Just confusion. Best case scenario was that his cold, hard stare was just to intimidate me. But worst case scenario was that he would resort to physical violence, slapping my face, boxing my ears, maybe beating me with some object. I was partly relieved that he threw down the fire-poking stick. I gulped again.
But rest assured, Dad, that I know that the promised one is definitely not me. You yourself said that I would never amount to anything. So I'm definitely not a contender for the promised one at all. I'm not competition as far as Cain is concerned, and will not stand in his way if he is, in fact, the promised one. I respect your decision.
I nodded with increasing confidence. In fact, I'm more than happy to fight right by his side against the seed of the devil serpent for what that devil serpent did to Mom, to you, to our family, to all of creation, separating us from where we belong with Father God in Eden. I want to help him make sure that devil serpent's evil head is as good as crushed. Yeah! Cain cheered with a big smile and thumbs up. That's why Father God gave me Abel as a brother. So glad he's on my team. He extended his right fist over to me, and I gladly bumped my right fist against it. Dad relaxed his tense pose, shook his head, and started laughing. He started rubbing the back of his neck as he turned back to me. Well, Abel, maybe Cain is merely a carrier of the promised seed. If your mom and I got to choose, we would have chosen him to follow in my footsteps and to be our champion. But if having the rest of you children around can mean having a bigger team to help in fulfilling the promise and breaking the curse, then I guess we'll keep you around. He yawned and stretched, causing the rest of us to do likewise. I think that means it's time to go to our sleeping quarters to get some rest for the night. Good night, children. A chorus followed of good night, Dad, and good night, Mom, as well as some rounds of hugs and kisses. I even managed to sneak a brief hug from Dad, along with a pat on the shoulder. I guess he was too tired to argue or push me aside by then. Mom and Dad disappeared with the littler siblings, who were asleep by now, so they could put them to bed in their nursery quarters, which were like an extra room attached to theirs.